So, at its simplest, cryptocurrency is a type of digital money. But instead of being issued by a government, it runs on a technology called blockchain, which is basically a digital ledger that records every transaction.
So first, it gets a lot of attention because there is potential, keyword underlined, bolded, potential.
Declines of 80 to 90% off a peak are not just theoretical. Like, this has actually happened to Bitcoin.
So you may have heard the term crypto bro thrown around. And, this is someone, it's a slang term, and it's more of like a culture term, I would say, than a technical one. Hello, welcome back.
Hello, good to be back with you.
Great to be back with you as always. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Living Richly with Curo, episode 74. My name is Anne McCabe. I am the CEO and a partner here at Curo Private Wealth, and I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful, lovely partner, Atricia.
Hi, I'm Atricia Roberts, COO and partner here at Curo. Thanks for either coming back or for checking us out for the first time.
Yes. And if you are just checking us out for the first time, we are here to inspire, to educate, to empower you on your financial journeys. That's what we do here at the podcast, and actually what we do each and every day in our real firm. And today we are going to be talking about a topic that I'm sure you all have heard a lot about, and it can be very confusing. And that topic is crypto. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
I feel like we need like some special music or something.
Yeah, we'll talk to our producer about it.
Exactly. So if you've ever heard the words thrown around like Bitcoin, Ethereum, blockchain, and you thought, I should probably understand what these people are talking about, but I don't, and it's so confusing, this episode is for you because we are going to break down what is crypto, what are some of the risks and realities that you should be aware of, should you have it in your portfolio, and then we'll do a nice little tie a bow on it takeaway for you to ultimately decide for yourselves if it is right for you. So let's start off, Atricia, with what is crypto? We're just going to start from the beginning and the basics.
Yep, at the basics. So at its simplest, cryptocurrency is a type of digital money. But instead of being issued by a government, it runs on a technology called blockchain, which is basically a digital ledger that records every transaction. The idea is transparency, security, without having to rely on banks or governments. And Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency that was created in 2009 in response to the great financial crisis. And since then, thousands of others have emerged. So I'm sure you've heard all types of cryptocurrency at this point. It's hard to keep up.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy that it's like thousands at this point. And then you've got like the meme coins and all that craziness. So, all right. So we're going to talk about why does crypto get so much attention? So first, it gets a lot of attention because there is potential, keyword underlined, bolded, potential growth. So there is no lack of stories online about, Bitcoin millionaires and people who have made so much money in the crypto space. And they are very vocal and very quick to tell you about the amazing returns that they have experienced in crypto. So you may have heard the term crypto bro thrown around. And, this is someone, it's a slang term, and it's more of like a culture term, I would say, than a technical one. But, this is someone who is constantly talking about crypto, evangelizing crypto, talking about, all of the wealth and, high returns that you can earn. And also making you feel like if you're not in crypto or you don't get crypto, that there's something wrong with you. Like there's a major, I want you to feel FOMO sort of vibe to crypto bros. But There are some legitimately, there are some people who have made a substantial amount of wealth in crypto. So that potential growth is there. Two, some people, including me, think that the blockchain, the technology that supports crypto, could transform lots of different industries. Because the idea with blockchain technology is that you can basically cut out the middleman or the financial intermediary, and you can go have direct transactions, which I do think has a lot of potential and a lot of benefit if we could figure out how to really do that across many industries. And then lastly, there is an independence factor that Atricia mentioned. So some people like the idea that this crypto is outside of traditional banks, right? That governments can't just print more money. And a lot of people feel uncomfortable with the way that traditional financial institutions and governments have managed money in general. And so they like the idea of this independence outside of that structure.
Yeah. And with this attention, of course, we have to, as always, because we want to educate, we also want to talk a little bit about some of the risk and the realities. So, extreme volatility. Prices of these currencies can swing and swing wildly. Deep crashes can happen and have happened. Declines of 80 to 90% off a peak are not just theoretical. Like this has actually happened to Bitcoin. 80 to 90. That's 80 to 90%.
Yeah. Also like close to 100 is another way of saying it.
Right. And then again, one of the reasons why it's talked about so much is the lack of regulation, but that's also one of the risks around it, and that it has much less protection compared to banks or traditional investment firms. I think one of my personal concerns about it is that, right? Because you have to kind of go back and think about why government regulation was introduced in the financial industry in the beginning, and it was to protect consumers. So that is also a potential risk. And then, of course, frauds, scams. I mean, I'm sure you have gotten those WhatsApp messages or those text messages. And unfortunately, crypto is a space where scams are common. Again, it's just, we've all gotten them. I mean, we get so much spam anyway, but it's like, oh, yeah, here's a new symbol, look it up. And unfortunately, I know people who actually buy into some of these schemes.
Yikes.
Um,
Don't be one of those. Our
they were
listeners and viewers do not be one of
nameless
those.
on this podcast, but I do know a handful.
Jeez.
And then the other, I guess, would be more of the reality is that there's no underlying company to this type of investment. So, unlike when you buy a stock, right? When you buy a stock, you're buying a share of an actual real business that has real cash flow, real earnings, or at least we hope, real assets, right? To value. When you have crypto, the price is almost entirely driven by the supply and the demand in the market. And I mean, maybe you like that as a potential growth vehicle, but it is just the reality and could present a risk in investing in cryptocurrencies.
Yeah. It's kind of like the idea of like baseball cards, right? Like the value of baseball cards or the value of like a hot Nike shoe that you ended up buying and want to resell is all based on just supply and demand as opposed to necessarily the underlying value. So this is one of the things we have hot debates on our Curo investment committee on a semi-regular basis around crypto. And this, I would say, is one of the most important points that some folks raise on our investment committee is like there's no underlying company that's producing profits. It's kind of like gold in that sense too, that it's based on supply and demand as opposed to an underlying valuable asset. So although I would argue this is where I come in the on the investment committee, that one of the, I think, powerful hypotheses, if you will, is that if you do live in a foreign country where you don't have a very strong currency, like in the US, the US dollar is a very strong currency, but if you live in a foreign currency where you don't have that situation, that it can be valuable to be able to put your net worth on a USB and like flee the country if you needed to, right? So like the idea that you don't have to like put a bunch of gold bars in a bag and, leave town, you can just like have your assets on a little USB that you can carry around, I think is an idea that makes sense to a lot of people around the world.
Yeah, and I'm not and so me being sort of one of the crypto naysayers on the committee, for me, it's not that I don't believe in the technology, right? I agree with you. I think that blockchain technology can drastically change the way we move commerce, the way we trade and buy internationally. I think my concern with it is it's almost like that bubble effect, right? When the investment in something is 10, 20, 30 times what the actual real asset is, right? We talk about the great financial crisis, and it reminds me of what happened with mortgages, right? There were more collateral mortgage obligations, right? These collateralized investments in mortgages than there were actually homes and people with mortgages. And so I think that's my general hesitation around it, but I don't disagree. I think the technology itself could be extremely powerful. I would just like to see us do it differently. And I think that's going to be hard when you're fighting against regulations like banks and governments and those kind of things in the US.
Yeah, right. And also the idea that the regulation, to your point about the lack of regulation, like it's going to take Congress a long time to figure out appropriate regulation and appropriate laws for this sector. So in the meantime, there is I think a higher level of risk because they haven't really figured it out. And it
Right.
takes a while, it takes a while for them to figure out what is appropriate and how do we regulate this asset
Yeah.
class.
And to the point of having your wealth on a USB, right? There's no recourse. If it's stolen, if it gets missing, right? There is no FDIC. There is no, right? It went under and now I can at least file a claim to get a portion of my money back. And I think that's also just one of the challenges with how you best regulate it and keep people from being taken advantage of and, the fraudsters and the scammers and all the other stuff that happens when we have looser regulations. And not that I'm pro tighten everything up, but you just have to understand that people will take advantage
Yeah.
of certain spaces.
Yeah, it's like the privacy, which can be a pro, can also be
Right.
a con because
Right.
privacy equals some shady stuff sometimes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So next we're going to talk about should crypto, key question, be part of your portfolio? So the truth here is that you do not need crypto to build wealth. So if some of these crypto bros are making you feel like you're missing out and you have to have crypto in your portfolio to build wealth, that is simply not true. But if you are curious and you're interested in crypto and you want to dip your toe in the water, here is how we would suggest that you consider approaching it. Number one, keep it small. Start small, keep it small. Okay. So, depending upon your age, your risk tolerance, your time horizon, your asset value, how much are your investable assets, we would say no more than 1 to 5% max of your investable assets should be in crypto. So, when we say small, we mean really small. Number two, we want you to approach this if you do decide to invest in crypto like Vegas money. And what we mean by that is if your position goes to zero, are you okay? Is your financial plan okay? Is your family okay? If the answer is no, we want you to back that up, okay? Like reduce the position to a point where if it did go to zero, you would be okay. It's the same thing we tell clients when they're talking about penny stocks or whatever, like a pretty aggressive speculative stock. Same approach here. If it goes to zero, are you okay? If not, we need you to reduce that position.
Yeah. That's
And number,
my favorite piece of advice for people with crypto. Just treat it like gambling money. Like, are
yeah,
you okay if you lose it all?
right.
If you are, then cool.
Yeah, proceed. And if not, pause and reassess. And then number three, as we mentioned, there are thousands of crypto positions on the market at this point. So if you are going to proceed, stick with the largest, the two largest being Bitcoin and Ethereum, because now you can actually gain access to those through some pretty large financial institutions who have created exchange traded funds or ETFs. So think companies like BlackRock, which has an iShares line of products, which are ETFs, and Grayscale. So now you don't actually have to buy the actual Bitcoin. You can buy Bitcoin or Ethereum through ETFs.
Yeah, and I think that is a wonderful way, especially if you're new to the idea of crypto, right? You don't really understand having some form of, I guess it would be more like less active management, but having some other form of being able to introduce crypto to your portfolio and to your investments. I think the exchange funds are a really great way to start approaching it as a beginner crypto investor.
Yeah. They also have pretty attractive expense ratios. They're not insanely expensive, which is good.
Right. Are people still mining Bitcoins? Remember we were going through
I
that
think
phase
so.
where
Yeah.
people were building like data
Yeah.
centers in their garages?
I think so. But with utilities having become so expensive with all the data centers, with the AI situation, I don't know. I
Yeah,
think people certainly still are. I'm not sure like new people are getting into that because I just
right.
think it's cost prohibitive from an electricity and utility standpoint. But yeah, people are still doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
So here are our key takeaways. Crypto can feel exciting, it can feel intimidating. And here's what we want you to remember, that true wealth is built over the long run with clarity, consistency, and confidence in your financial plan. So you do not need to have crypto exposure. If you want crypto exposure, please follow the instructions that we gave you earlier in the episode. But ultimately, you and hopefully your financial advisor need to have a conversation and come to a conclusion that is right for you. And this is advice we give across the board. Don't ever do something because your neighbor did it or because your sister did it or because whoever did it. You read it on Reddit. Do it because it's right for you and it fits in your financial plan. And if it does, then awesome. And if it doesn't, then be willing to say no and be okay with that and hold your ground and your position when people try to make you feel like you're missing out on something.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The FOMO is a real issue around this crypto space. People trying to convince others that they're somehow doing it wrong because they don't own crypto. Block out that noise and again, make the decision that's right for you. And it's such an interesting, exciting sort of new feature and vehicle in investing. So I completely understand the curiosity and wanting to know it and wanting to own a piece of it, but you do it because that's the choice you made and not because the crypto bro that goes to your gym told you when he was next to you on the treadmill or something.
Right, exactly. All right, bottom line, Atricia, are you team crypto or team no crypto? You got to
It
pick a side.
depends. It depends. It's such a subjective
No,
question.
can't. No.
Okay, so if
Okay,
I'm
for
talking about
yourself.
for
Let's talk about for
myself right
yourself.
now, I am team no crypto
Yeah.
for myself. But we'll talk about myself and why I feel that way on another day. I think for the majority of investors, I probably am I'm team no crypto for the majority. But I think that there is a segment of investors who enjoy the actual hobby of investing, right?
Mhm.
It's not just about trying to create and build wealth and have a safe retirement. And I think for those people, I think it works. I would be team crypto for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's fair. All right, I think it's pretty clear I'm team
Yeah,
crypto, but like very responsibly in very small
absolutely.
chunks and obviously for the right people. So
Yes.
with all the caveats, I am team crypto. Like team Bitcoin and Ethereum, really. Not
Right,
all the
right. Let's be
crypto.
specific, right? Not
Let's be
Dogecoin or whatever
right.
the heck is going on out
Exactly.
there.
Yeah, no meme coins here. All right. Awesome. Well, let's wrap up with our closing thought. So, what do you have for us for today for our closing thought?
Yeah, so we are recording this on the morning of a recent federal government shutdown. And I know several people personally in my life, as well as our clients, who are facing furloughs and all kinds of issues because of it. Obviously, we're in the DC metro area, so we feel, I think, a little more deeply impacted just because of the region that we're in. But one of the articles that I found earlier this year on Headspace's website or the app, and they had a blog about how to manage what they call political anxiety, like as a coined term, right? When you're facing political anxiety. And there's several things, right? Obviously, digital detox, turn it off. And then there's also meditation, right? Deep breathing. It's knowing yourself, understanding your personal triggers, working with a mental health coach. But the fifth tip that they offered for managing it was to get involved. And I often realize when I'm having conversations with clients, with friends, with family, is that most people's anxiety and concern is about feeling like they're out of control, right? Like that something is happening that they can't help manage in any way. And so I just want to pose, because it's something that I'm going to try experimenting with myself, is rather than sort of wallowing in the sort of distress of what's happening in our global environment, is to figure out how to channel that energy in a way to show up for my community. So doing more community service, giving back to the food bank, just sort of pouring into ways that help me feel more involved and more in control, even if it's just the little space where I occupy. So just wanted to share that, because I'm assuming that there are lots of our listeners who are probably feeling that way, or maybe even themselves are facing some sort of a furlough. So just think about all of those ways that you can help manage that anxiety, but then also maybe find a way to get involved and channel that energy into something that does really good for your community.
I love that. I love that for so many reasons, because it is inside of your control and there is so much outside of our
Right.
control. So that's amazing. And then also just the idea, like the butterfly effect, right? Even if you're doing
Mhm.
something quote unquote small in your community, the impact, the massive impact that that can have is way larger than any of us really probably realize.
Right. And it doesn't have to be political, right? Not everybody's going to
Right.
be an activist, and nobody's requiring you to be. But even if you can just go, read to students, or,
Hmm.
go clean up a park, just channel something that feels like you're making the world a little bit better in the space that you can control, is what
Yeah.
I'm suggesting.
I love that. Awesome. All right, my closing thought is a quote that I came across by Layla Hormozy. I follow her on Instagram,
Mhm.
and we're a PG rated podcast here, so I'm
Yeah.
not gonna say the actual quote, but the quote is "F your mood, follow the plan." And I came across this quote, I think last week, and the amount of times I have said to myself, "F your mood, follow the plan," is like I can't even count over the last 7 days.
Yeah.
And I think this has so many applications. It has an application to the topic we talked about today. Like,
Right.
F if you feel FOMO, like follow your plan. If your plan
Right.
includes crypto, cool. If it doesn't, then let's not do that. If you have a plan of attack for your day and like these are the things you're gonna get done, and then you just don't feel like it, like F your mood, follow your plan. If you said you were going to work out today and you don't feel like it, F your mood, work out. Like you just need to do it. Nobody
Right.
ever regrets working out or doing the thing that you said you were going to do. Like after you're done, you're not like, oh man, I wish I would have sat on the couch and watched Netflix. Like, no, you feel
Right.
great. So that is
I
my
like
closing
that.
thought for all of you. F your mood. Nobody cares. Do the thing.
Do the thing. I think subconsciously I did that on the way headed home, because I had told myself, stop by the grocery store on your way home, grab the veggies and things you need to go home and make dinner. And when I left here yesterday, I was so tired. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go order DoorDash or something. And then I didn't use that language.
Right.
Those weren't my exact words, but I'm like, no, you said this is what you were gonna do. It won't take that long. Just go to the grocery store and buy the vegetable.
Amazing. Yeah. And this is like a total side note. We've talked about this before, but the idea that confidence is this thing that you just look in the mirror and say like
Mm,
I'm confident, that is complete BS. Like
yes.
confidence is built by the exact thing that you did yesterday, right? You said you were going to do something, you didn't feel like it, you did the thing anyway, and that's like little deposits in your own
Mhm.
confidence bank that tell yourself like I can believe in you. I trust you. You
Right.
you do what you say you're going to do. You keep your word. Like that's how you actually build confidence. And so that's amazing. I love that story because again, a small thing like anybody else
Yeah,
could be like, "Oh, whatever. It's DoorDash. It's one night. It doesn't matter." But yeah, it does matter because you
it
said you were
does.
going to do something and if you don't do that, you're telling yourself that you're not reliable to yourself. Like
Right.
nobody would know, right? But that's not the point.
Yeah, nobody would know, just me. I was only making dinner for me, but again, to the
But you
point, once
know.
I did it, I was like, "Okay, that worked," right? I ate a nice, healthy meal. It was delicious. It didn't cost me, the 35 bucks it would have cost me for the delivery service. So it wasn't something that I did it and it was like, "Oh, I wish I had done something different." I
No,
felt good
you
about
always feel
myself
great.
after doing it. Right.
Yeah, it's just that, like, decision point. It's the decision
Yeah,
of, like, am I gonna stick with my plan or am I gonna do the easy thing? It's that
right.
1 second of friction, and once you get past that friction and you just, like,
Yeah,
recommit to what you said you were gonna do, nobody ever regrets that.
yeah. F your mood.
F
Stick
your
to your plan.
mood, follow your plan.
I love
That's
that.
it, folks. Mic drop. All right, y'all. Well, we will let you go. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode. We will see you here next week for more fun and shenanigans. And until then,
Live richly.
thanks again for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who might benefit from it. Friendly reminder that this is for informational purposes only. For additional information, please visit us at www.curoprivatewealth.com. Until next time, live richly.